Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, clean energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today on a Wednesday that also happens to be Earth Day
Earth
with
Day.
our resident engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going, Mike?
I'm feeling the green spirit over here, David. And it's not the 420 spirit. It's the earth. It's the earth that's
Well,
overcome me.
it's actually 422, but
I know. But yeah, you get it. It was yeah.
yeah, but it is pretty funny. It is Earth Day. Bill was talking to us about the Earth Day events at the Sierra Club over the weekend yesterday. And of course, my friend Professor Alan Tratner is one of the original founders of Earth Day. He's
Mhm.
already sent me stuff today. It's always interesting to see some of this. And so we're going to talk about a type of technology we've never discussed before on EV World, at least not on the podcast. It's possible Bill's had something about it before. This is a company called Hydrostor, which is an interesting name because by Hydrostor, you assume they're doing something with water, right?
Water?
Yeah,
What
but
I mean, I know my Greek, right? A little
yeah.
bit. Hydro, that's
So
a good prefix.
they are launching the world's largest ACAES facility. That stands for Advanced Compressed Air Energy Storage Facility, receiving final permitting in California. It's a 500 megawatt compressed air energy storage that has it has 4 gigawatts. It's the equivalent of four
Like
gigawatt
four
hours
gigawatts of
of
storage.
continuous discharge, no lithium batteries,
Yeah.
and it uses compressed air and water in underground caverns. So we talked about this idea of like filling up, um,
Yeah, old mine shafts
yeah,
and
old mine
yeah.
shafts with water and stuff like that. Well, what they've done, and I'm going to pull up their website, they are you taking excess energy from the grid in California because they have way too much solar in California. They're using it to make compressed air and then storing that as the battery. Now, we've discussed other technologies like running water up a hill,
Yeah,
yeah,
gravity, like a
and
gravity
then
system.
bringing it back down at night and using that as the battery. This one is storing it as air, and then it blows a turbine. So
Mhm.
it has no critical minerals or hazardous materials. 50 plus year timeline or lifetime, ensuring long-term reliability, flexible siting using purpose-built hard rock caverns, no need for salt caverns. So I guess we're not doing, salt
Yeah.
mines, but yeah, this is what it looks like. Now, this isn't the first one, but this is the biggest one. So they've already got one. Well, this is the one I guess we're looking at is this
That's
Willow
a good
Rock, but they've got Silver City in New South Wales. They've got one in Ontario.
Where was
They
that,
got another
David?
one
Huh.
in. I'm assuming this one in Phoenix hasn't been installed yet. I don't know. Maybe none of these have been installed, but these are all places they're going.
They're going with
A
it.
different location in New South Wales. So they had 2 locations in Australia, 2 in the U.S., 1 in Canada. And I just thought, well, what an interesting technology.
It's
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 like,
a it's a cool concept, and they've talked about and why hydro. I've heard them talk about not using hydrogen. Maybe it's helium. No, helium's too expensive. But whatever gas they use,
mhm,
it's not exactly air composition. My understanding of projects like this, and I'm not an expert, is when it actually gets down to the nitty gritty efficiency cycles, like they're not very cost competitive. At the end of the day, it's for every bit of energy you have to put in. It's quite a bit to pull out. You actually don't get a high value on it. That was always one of the challenges with batteries forever. Like, what is your duty cycle? What is your efficiency cycle? And those have gotten so good that for all of these other projects, so as it makes sense, but as a cost competitive option to a battery, it's still not there. So maybe this is different. Maybe they have a new business model, but it's just the overall efficiency of the process makes it tough to be financially viable.
well, it's like whenever we see a new hydrogen thing, I'm like, they're not discussing the economics.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
they're talking the science, but not talking the economics.
mhm.
And as much as I love green projects and all this, the harsh truth is it's really hard to make somebody go green if it's going to cost them money to do it.
Just there's one green that matters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah. If it costs you 50% or 100% more money to make it clean energy, people just won't do it. And it's a sad truth. I hate to be the
and
bringer of bad news.
I mean, like the California model, all right, it's dirt cheap excess energy during the day.
Mhm.
Maybe that will make the model work. Maybe that's what makes the model work. But it's just, I think you just lose so much during the process, the inefficiency of it. It's hard to make it pencil out. It's hard to make those things pencil out with where it's at today.
Yeah, I'm under the impression this is really heavily dependent on, solar feeding it that excess solar in California, and then it stores it to use it during the peak hours between, 4 and 10 p.m. or whatever. And
yeah, I mean, it's the same concept as arbitrage, right? Buy low, sell high, kind of thing.
I suspect that's probably what their financial model is. Although I do understand that arbitrage really took a beating last year. And so it's not the same as what it was previously in California to be able to do battery storage and sell energy back. But that being said, California's got problems, right? Maybe they can afford stuff, maybe they can't. It seems, though, sometimes they take drastic action instead of gradual action. Because if you had spent money on battery storage to have them then change the pricing on you like that, I mean, to me, that would bring lawsuits.
Oh, yeah.
And so I really don't know how that's playing. All right. So, obviously that's a type of battery storage, right? So it's kind of wild. It's like they're blowing up a balloon and then the balloon's letting the air back out. And
yeah, it's like, it's great concept. Love it. But like how does it pencil out?
Yeah, there's a lot of smart people out there that come up with some ideas. And you've got to know that whoever came up with that idea first, they're like, you're a dumbass. And then finally somebody's like, oh, well,
wait, actually, now that I think about it, yeah.
Well, somebody who had enough money came up with the idea, and then it wasn't so crazy because people would listen to them, right?
Yeah.
That's probably what happened. It is kind of silly. I mean, I've been at events and I've seen people have some wild ideas about stuff, and it's like, man, good luck. I mean, they were always the people with the wildest ideas that were probably decent looked the weirdest. There was a guy like from Romania who was dressed up like a cowboy, had on cowboy boots and a cowboy hat at a fundraising event. And I'm just like, well, I don't know if you're trying to look memorable or did you just come from, are you an extra on a set? Are you on Gunsmoke or Bonanza or something? You just
maybe that's all they get on TV over their old reruns from the 50s. Like, this is the latest fashion in the US, right?
Yeah, you just never know. Anyways, grid battery storage boom, 24.3 gigawatts coming online in 2026, with Texas getting 48% of that. Let me see. 24 gigawatts will come online in 26, up from 15 in 25. I mean, that's really big growth, from 15
number.
to 24.
50%, yeah.
Texas is getting 12.9 gigawatts. California is getting 3.4, and Arizona is getting 3.2 gigawatts of storage.
Crazy.
That's a lot of batteries. My understanding, I'm an advisor for a hemp graphene aluminum battery company. Okay.
Excuse me?
Yeah, hemp graphene aluminum. It's a graphene aluminum, but the graphene is extracted from hemp.
Okay.
So it'll just grow.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, and I don't know that you can smoke the batteries either. Anyways, but I know that like a shipping container battery is like 5 megawatts. Okay.
That's big.
You start talking gigawatts, though, that means you're talking 200 shipping containers. You're talking a lot of shipping containers of batteries here.
It's there. I believe it, though. I mean, all the projects I see, everything I see coming through, it's just, if you don't put batteries on it today, what are you doing with the price of batteries? I mean, it is since we've started this podcast, or you've started this podcast, and I've been joining with you, just straight down the cost of batteries. I mean, the price points they're at today. They've made EVs, so price competitive, but God, the power market on those things, it is like put batteries on all your projects.
I think lithium-ion batteries are about $70 a kilowatt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, when you're talking really large scale, like if you're an auto manufacturer placing an order for them, but that's less than a third of what it was when we started the show 3 years ago.
Yeah. And that was a fraction of what it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago, it might have been like $250.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's $70. And all of a sudden, these technologies, it's like, whoa, this technology is really cheap. And you start extracting that, like a 100 kilowatt hour Tesla battery in a long range model. It's only $7,000 for that new battery. That's what Tesla pays for it. That's not what they're going to sell it to you for. Mm-hmm. But that's pretty damn cheap. When people always think, oh, it costs $50,000 for Tesla.
Yeah, you just have to replace
10 years ago.
No, and it's especially Tesla. I mean, it's all standardized. It's not quite the Cadillac pull in and pull out, but like it's pretty darn close. I mean, they've got all the parts standardized.
Yeah, I'm just saying it just keeps getting cheaper and cheaper. Solar and storage account for 79% of all new grid capacity in 2026. It's 86 gigawatts total, with renewables at 93% of new utility scale capacity. Now, some of that, when you talk about when we talk about gigawatts of energy production for solar, and then we try to compare it to nuclear, or we're trying to compare it to gas or LNG. Gas, LNG, and gas, LNG, and nuclear, that number is pretty similar. As far as, if you say it's a gigawatt hour, it's a gigawatt hour, because you can do it 24 hours a day, right? But you start talking about solar, it's only, what we say on a national level, it's like 14% efficient.
Yep.
And here in the wintertime in Nebraska, it's 0% efficient.
0% efficient, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't really fill up a battery here in Nebraska. I will tell you, I don't have an electric bill though in Nebraska. I still get, in the wintertime, I still have plenty of solar power.
Even in the winter?
In the winter, yeah. So, but we have gas heat.
It's true.
Okay. So it's, I'm just saying, it's like in the summertime when the sun is up all the time, but the air conditioner's cranking, we occasionally actually have a few bucks of an electric bill.
This is the challenge of the grid. It's all of these assets are coming on. It's like, well, batteries are going to solve the problem, right? It's okay. They'll store it. They'll do everything like that. And it's not an untrue statement. I mean, they help. They're going to contribute, but from a modeling standpoint and planning and just what the hell do we do with this? Like, how do we assume it's going to work? Especially since so much of it's so new, and dispatch cycles, and how much do you save for emergencies? How much are they allowed to do? It's just been it's a lot to think through. It's been a lot to think through on the grid.
So here's how that 2026 energy increase, that 86 gigawatts, breaks down. 51% is solar. That's 43.4 gigawatts. 28% is battery storage, which we just said was 24 gigawatts. And 14% is wind, which is 11.8 gigawatts. Now, wind, it's probably, while it's not 100%, it's probably still fairly constant. I don't know what the effectiveness of. Do you have any idea what the effectiveness of wind is versus solar? Just off the top of your head,
I want to throw out the number like 50 or 60% of nameplate. Yeah, so wind's not bad, and especially what they found is as they've gone higher and higher, the building tolerate. There's always wind, and what they're starting to do is predict over a larger geographic region, like our state or the Midwest. The wind's always blowing somewhere, kind of thing. So it's not like the middle of the night where, okay, the sun is not shining in this region. There's zero output from solar. We can't count on it, but you can always, I don't want to say always, but you can kind of count on the wind is blowing somewhere, in Nebraska, in Iowa, and Missouri, across the plains. So you're always getting some output from wind.
I've heard these theories about having, like a dirigible that had.
China's doing that, aren't they?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
they're
harvesting wind at a higher altitude.
Yep.
That way, because the wind blows faster.
Yep.
So
it's
I guess
always
what I'm getting at
blowing. Yep.
is we have 43 gigawatts of solar and 11 gigawatts of wind. If that wind is 5 times, or let's say 4 times more efficient, so that'd be almost the same amount in reality of actual output.
Of actual, potential energy output.
And then on the natural gas was only 6.3 gigawatts of that 86. But I think that's a little deceptive, because that 6.3 in reality is probably generating as much energy as those 43 gigawatts of solar, and the 11, and it's probably about the same as 11.8 gigawatts of wind.
I'm that number sounds low to me with all the gas they're talking about, and I wonder if that's considering
this is only grid capacity. So this isn't including these couple of 8 gigawatt off grid.
Yep. So it's not including the Microsofts who are bringing their own. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, it excludes the bring your own grid. Okay. But I just find this fascinating, because I think it's. I don't mean to say it's deceptive, okay? Because it is nice to say that 51% of new energy generation is solar, right? But in reality, that 6.3 gigawatts of natural gas, even though it only represents about 8% of the new energy generation, in reality, it's just as big as the solar.
Well, and I look at it from the capacity market side too. Like natural gas, it's 100%. Like it's whatever the nameplate says, that's what it's accredited for. But like we were talking, that's where like the solar you get, 20%, 10%, whatever it is. So yeah, it'd be kind of fun to see that played out of like, here's the different capacity factors, different regions, and it's a lot of solar panels, but it actually, it doesn't add up to that much. And we're not poo-pooing, like, great, put solar panels in, it's a great thing. Couple them with storage, it's a great thing. But it's not solving the problem that we're seeing out there. I mean, just from the nameplate capacity, like you only get a percentage of it.
Right.
Keep putting it out there, but it's still got to have the gas with it, unfortunately.
I'm just saying it's a little deceptive to say that solar is 51% of new energy capacity, when in reality that's 6 gigawatts of natural gas has the same output as the 43 gigawatts of solar. But it is what it is, right? I tell people all the time, it's like, there's a solution to data centers. It's just not what anybody wants to hear. It's LNG, it's liquefied natural gas, and that's not that's not what we all want to hear. I remember that one data center in Virginia, they said it's going to increase carbon emissions from the grid by 35% or something like that.
Just from that one.
Just from that one. But
gas, right? Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That's not coming online this year, though. That was another thing. Those 2 big projects, neither of those will come online this year. So that could be
could be skewing some of those numbers too.
Skewing some of those numbers too.
When they hit on the calendar, it could that could look a little rough.
Yeah, they're going to hit on leap day is when they're going to go live. But I'm just saying, I'm not trying to say. I read the news sometimes with a little bit of bias. We all have our own biases and all that, but when I see that sometimes it's like, it's not exactly what people think.
But really is to make a chart look like you want it to look.
But if I did this
oh my God, look at that.
I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't recognize that. So, I mean, it's interesting kind of to see that. All right, let's talk about, I got a couple articles on nuclear today. Rolls-Royce SMR division wins UK and Czech nuclear contracts. Rolls-Royce SMR selected for UK's first SMRs, expected to deliver up to 1.5 gigawatts of low carbon generation. Now, I'm going to guess if they're doing 1.5 gigawatts, those are probably pretty big SMRs, like 300 megawatt type. So, because that's about as big as you can get and still be called an SMR.
And still be called small.
Yeah.
Modular.
Yeah, it's funny because a gigawatt is a normal, cooling tower size one. Czech utility CEZ to deploy up to 3 gigawatts of Rolls-Royce SMR capacity in Czech Republic. I have a manufacturer in Czech Republic that's been talking to me about wanting SMR. And it's interesting to see, but he doesn't need gigawatts. He needs like
handful megawatts,
30 megawatts, maybe, something like that. Company called Yokogawa Electric, partnering on control systems for the global reactor fleet. Major milestone for small modular reactor deployment in Europe. What's interesting is I've had somebody who's the brother of the guy that handles licensing for Rolls-Royce SMR. So
who don't you know?
I mean, I know everybody. Well, I had a meeting with a guy, and it's like, oh yeah, my brother heads up the licensing division for Rolls-Royce SMR. Yeah, it'd be worth having a chat sometime. It's like, yeah, I'd like to love that. Yeah. But let's see. Battery chemistry race. LFP versus NMC versus sodium ion. We've got so many new ones. Like I was talking about the graphene aluminum. A lot of people don't realize that that's coming online. And I mean, it's at a point now where I could deliver to a customer in 90 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not manufactured in Europe. Manufactured in Europe at the moment. Our intent is to assemble them in Puerto Rico.
Okay. Yeah.
And
wow, those are the things that always battery storage that catches my interest. Yeah, we can actually deliver.
Wow.
You're ahead of like 95% of the news articles if you can actually deliver a product.
Oh, I know.
Even if it's a pilot project, like I can actually deliver you a product to go put out in your field.
Mm-hmm.
Let's test it.
Yeah. I can certainly get you lithium-ion batteries pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Cheap enough that it's worth not worrying about whether you get a federal tax credit from it. Yeah. Let me see. Lithium iron phosphate batteries are rising for cost and durability in mainstream EVs. That's kind of interesting because we see the lithium ion ones plummeting. But high nickel NMC is targeting long range premium vehicles. Now, NMC, nickel metal,
cobalt.
I don't know. I just can't imagine that they're trying to get a high concentration of cobalt in a battery.
Yeah, with
Give me a second here. I'm looking at let's see if I can get the source article here. I'm pulling up the source article because I am kind of curious. This is from Chemistry World, and they're like tossing around all the letters, assuming we all are smart people. We know stuff. Well, they don't ever say what NMC stands for. Oh, nickel, manganese, cobalt. Oh, well, you were right. It was cobalt.
That's surprising. I mean, without how much that comes up, and there's one of them out there of
high energy density, enabling 600 to 1,000 kilometer range. Premium pricing due to cobalt content. I mean, you got to pay those child slaves a lot of money to come out and mine your cobalt, apparently, in the Congo.
I shouldn't even smile at that one.
Yeah. It's like I always say, those kids can starve or they can mine cobalt.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? We can do either. I'm just being a realist. It's not like we're going to just magically pay them,
wage, infrastructure.
It's a sad state of the world. It's a sad state of the world. Preferred for long-range performance vehicles. Dominant in Western markets. Okay. Then we got LFP. Has 30% lower cost, superior safety and longevity, shorter range, typically 400 to 500 kilometers. That's 600 to 1,000 kilometer range is a lot. I mean, you're talking 1,000 kilometers.
If it's got the density and low weight, I mean, it's not a small deal, but
Polestar is using the NMC batteries for the long range. Let's see. Cobalt is comparatively scarce, raising cost, mostly mined in the Congo, bringing concerns. I mean, if they use all the cobalt in car batteries, then there won't be any left for your iPhone. So people will be out of luck. LFP is surging ahead thanks to car makers in China. The thing is, the sodium ion batteries are kind of a brand new thing. My friend over there, his company makes sodium ion 12 volt batteries, like just like your basic car battery.
Yeah.
But not EV
Bigger scale.
batteries. They're not making from EV batteries, but they're going to switch and start doing them for the storage batteries. The problem is sodium ion isn't as dense. So it's not as energy dense as some of these other
It would
technologies.
be tough to put in a moving vehicle, but standalone storage, like, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter, right? I mean, if those containers only have 3 megawatts instead of 5 megawatts, is that really a huge difference? I mean, if you're going to be stacking these stupid containers anyways. So here's one that's kind of fun. So battery storage, there's a surge going on driven by the war in Iran. Okay. Battery installations expected to jump 33% globally in 2026, led by Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. Now, we were talking about how much it's growing in the United States, but
we're not even on the list.
Yeah, we're not even on the list. Yeah. Iran war is turbocharging demand as countries reduce fossil fuel dependence amid volatile prices. And of course, here they're saying battery costs dropped 75% from 2018 to 25. So that's a 7-year span, and expected to fall another 25% through 2035. I bet they fall more than that, to be honest. China's clean tech exports surged in March. Their lithium-ion batteries went up 34% year over year. EV exports up 53% year over year. Solar cells up 80% year over year. Our friend Jigger Shaw was commenting about this on Twitter this morning, but China exported a record $21.9 billion in solar batteries and EVs in March.
Just in March.
Just in March.
Yikes.
Yeah. Now, China is hurting for oil. They need that oil. They're the ones getting pinched the most by this, but they're also the ones who've adopted the most to electric. So they're a little more prepared.
Yeah, this is not a new thing. Yeah, I know that region's just been South Asia, Southeast Asia. China's been getting hit really hard by the turning the spigot off out of the strait. I also wonder in some of those too, after that initial round of attacks from Iran, where it's like they proved they could hit a lot of targets around the Middle East, and Middle East made the list of like, okay, we need to get our stuff in order here all of a sudden and privatize a little bit and move away from it and just have some type of electric backup.
Yeah, they really have attacked a lot of countries around. It's like, let's just shoot stuff off randomly to see who we can make upset at us.
That's not that we're talking about the war but it's step one. Let's piss off all the neighbors.
You and I don't go off on big tangents as Bill and I do. I mean, we'll evolve completely from talking about electric cars. We'll be talking about, the performance of World War II fighter aircraft and the superiority of radial over air-cooled engines.
There you go.
It's really kind of funny when we start just trailing off and it's like, well, how did we get on this discussion anyways? So anyways, I just thought that was, pretty big deal. Though.
Yeah.
Really seeing
it's things like that. I mean, it jump starts it everywhere in the world of like, okay, like this is a good shakeup, a good wake up call for everybody. These technologies are out there, adapt.
Back to nuclear. One of the topics that we've spoken on before is the fact that ever since the Carter administration, all nuclear waste has been stored at the site of the nuclear reactor. I wonder what they did with the stuff from Fort Calhoun.
It's up there.
So they've removed everything. I mean, it's almost like just farmland now. Everything else is gone.
Yep.
I mean, all of the cooling towers, all that stuff.
It's leveled. It's
completely gone, but they still have the nuclear waste.
I think so. Well, because it was like when they shut it down like a decade ago at this point.
Right.
Where the talks were happening. I think like the Yucca Mountain thing was still on the table. All of these things were happening. What are we going to do with it? And just leave the security shack there and covered in concrete and leave it. I think
it's sitting there, but we've talked about this before, how France reuses, they're able to squeeze out about 75% more juice out of the uranium, and they keep, using it over again. Well, the DOE just awarded $19 million, which isn't huge in the overall scheme of things, $19 million for used nuclear fuel recycling, research and development. Could increase uranium utilization by 95%. Now, we've talked about this because, we talk because of the company we've been talking with that they claim they can reduce nuclear waste by 99%. They said they can take it from 10,000 year half-life to 150.
That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah. And
I wonder if that 19 million is so low because it's so proven. It's just all right, just this works in the US. Yep. Okay, go do it.
This is just research grants.
That's what I mean. It's like there's not a lot of research to do. It's if France is doing it and it's out there in the world, just adapt it here.
5 companies got awarded part of this. It's Alpha Nur, which I've never heard of them, Nur, N-U-R. Curio Solutions, Oklo, which we talk about, they're in our ticker stream, and Shine Technologies, that's S-H-I-N-E, not to be confused with the women's clothing brand.
I was going to say the window washing company.
Yeah. Oklo's up today. They're up to $67. That's a funny one. I mean, they went up to almost $190 last year, and they fell to like 48 or 38 or something like that back up. They're
creeping back up.
Yeah, the BWXT is one to me. If you were looking for one that was just like not volatile, BWXT would be it. They're the ones that make the reactors for the Navy. Tesla's up a little bit today. Rivian's up a little. Lucid's down a little. Nothing real major going on here. Ford down 9 cents. It's funny to see some of these, and Nvidia's not doing much. Not very big changes in the stock market there. Let's see here. Trying to see if there's something. I found something. This thing called a Thunderbird reactor. It's a cold fusion. Now, give me just a second. I'm going to see if I can find something on this. The Thunderbird reactor is a tabletop room temperature experimental setup developed by the University of British Columbia researchers that demonstrated a 15% increase in deuterium to deuterium fusion rates by combining plasma injection with electrochemical loading. They used a palladium target to achieve measurable fusion-induced neutrons without producing net energy. Well, that doesn't really do you much good. I mean,
isn't that the point?
Yeah, the point is you want that. The combined method increased fusion rates by roughly 15% compared to using plasma alone, but it still didn't achieve net energy. The energy output being roughly 10 to the negative 10th power times the input. Yeah, that's not, I don't know. That wasn't really worth reporting on. Sorry, folks. I'm always interested or something. Somebody's having a fusion breakthrough, but it's such a tough thing. And I talk about some of the changes. It's like, okay, you can make fusion work. What are you going to fuel it with? And I saw I've done some research on a deuterium to deuterium fusion, and it just doesn't have the same results as the deuterium to tritium fusion. And you can't have tritium, you can't make tritium without this lithium-6, that they got to get it from Russia. And it's really it's kind of funny how some of these technologies are. I saw news that Kairos, their Hermes 2 reactor, they got a permit to go ahead and start construction, but they need lithium-7, and they can't get lithium-7. So they can build a reactor, and maybe they have enough lithium-7.
Sit there for a minute.
Hopefully they got it in a closet somewhere they can use and fire it up for a little bit. But I'm hoping they've got something stored back.
At least test the thing out.
Has anybody got some lithium-7 I can borrow? Go to my neighbor. I'm thinking about like a cooking show. It's like, can I have a stick of butter?
Yeah, can I borrow a cup of lithium-7?
Yeah, and everybody's got some. My last story for today. This is from a couple of hours ago. SpaceX inks a pact with AI coding darling Cursor for $60 billion. Now, do you use Claude?
I have before.
Okay, so Cursor is a similar deal to Claude, not quite as effective, for coding, but it burns something like 80-90% less credits. Okay, that's people's big complaint. Claude is amazing. Okay, I'm not bashing on Claude, but to get amazing and pay for amazing, you have to pay for all that computing power. Okay, and so you really can go through a lot of money on credits. And so SpaceX, which is XAI or Grok, basically just bought Cursor.
Efficient coding.
And because I've recommended for coding projects, I'm like, hey, can our team working on one of our software projects instead of using Claude for everything, could they use Cursor most of the time
and start it up and get
occasionally? And we could probably cut our AI costs 90%. Okay, that's kind of what or 80%, something like that. But it'd be a pretty significant change in the monthly budget because we're going through like thousands and thousands of dollars and in costs for using the tech. And anyways, so this is a pretty big deal, I think. It's going to allow Grok and Cursor both to strengthen their position.
For both of them combined.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So anyways, I thought that was, anytime I really see these big numbers, because we're about to have SpaceX go public, possibly the largest IPO ever. They're valuing it at 1.75 trillion, and they're already, doing this. In my mind, this is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyways, folks, thanks everybody for watching today. I should be back with Bill on Friday, and otherwise, folks, enjoy the rest of your Earth Day. Keep planting a little greener today.